Hey, Pretty Girl Club. I hope everyone is enjoying their day. I'm sitting here drinking my latte. I just got back from the coffee shop and I was just thinking about this whole decentering men thing because somebody commented on my community page and they were saying that, like, whenever they watch a lot of romance movies or they watch like love movies and stuff, it gets them in the mood of really wanting romance. And my response to that is that's what it's supposed to do. Media is a form of brainwashing. So whether you like it or not, you are always being brainwashed. So the way that I see it is I am either being brainwashed in a positive way and I'm getting closer to my dreams and goals, or I'm being brainwashed in a negative way that leads me closer to mental illnesses. So I actually believe that a lot of romance content is almost like a form of emotional porn. And the reason that I call it emotional porn is because that's just the best phrase that I can think of. So I've noticed that men's version of like porn or whatever is, actually going on the websites and just viewing the sexual stuff. And that is how they get their dopamine hit. And I've noticed that with women, a lot of times the dopamine hit is these romance movies. It's the romance novels. It's the erotica novels and stuff. That is the way that women kind of get that fantasy dopamine hit. And so I would say to be very careful with that. Like I said, I personally do not watch stuff like that or read books like that at all because you're right, it does gradually contribute to brainwashing you. And I believe that having an addiction to romantic stories, in my opinion, it's no different than people who have addictions to things like porn. So it skews your views on reality. It can cause you to have bad social interactions with the opposite sex in real life, and it can also cause you to project those newfound subconscious beliefs onto your partner. And so I guess I can only speak from experience. But with me personally, I grew up socialized by Christianity and Disney Channel. So I am all about, I literally was taught from birth to stay a virgin until marriage. And one day you're going to find this great man of God, and he's going to be like a Christian version of a Prince Charming. And so that caused me to naturally pedestalize Christian men. It caused me to pedestalize pastors. So I noticed that, like, if I would have a crush on a guy, I would be more likely to have a crush on a man if he was like some sort of pastor, if he was some sort of youth leader, if he was some sort of like worship leader in the church or something, because of my socialization and my brainwashing. So that man, the only difference between the guys in the church and the guys outside of the church is that the guys in the church are just better at hiding their porn addictions. They're just better at hiding their flaws and stuff like that. And then the guys who are not in the church, or guys who are like secular, they're just more open about whatever it is they're doing. But I had to learn to be very careful with the type of content that I allow into my psyche, because as a person who loves psychology and sociology, and I love studying the brain and like how the brain works and how the thought process works and how your neurons form in your brain and all that, as a person who is like obsessed with maintaining my brain and kind of maintaining my mental health, that is the center of my identity. So you know how I say decentering men? What I place at the center of my life and the center of my identity, it's actually my mental health. I put my mental health as my number one priority, and then after my mental health is settled, then I can focus. I notice that it's much easier for me to focus on things like my physical health or my career and all that stuff when I am mentally healthy. So for me, the reason that I stopped watching romance movies and TV shows is because I did notice that it started to affect my mental health negatively. So for example, one of my favorite shows, anything by Shonda Rhimes, that was my shit. So like, I used to watch Scandal when I was in college. I was obsessed with Grey's Anatomy. And so shows like that, they romanticize bad men. Honestly, they romanticize cheating, first of all. So they romanticize being the other woman or being the side chick. And it's supposed to be seen as a flex to be the side chick to the president. You know what I mean? So I just feel like the subliminal messages in a lot of mainstream movies and stuff, I do believe that it contributes to patriarchy, because I honestly do not think that women would think the same way. Women would not be pick-me's if music didn't exist and if those romance movies and stuff did not exist. And also, I know this for a fact. You know why? because the way women are socialized is different than men. Notice how men aren't romanticizing shit. They're not romanticizing you. They're not romanticizing your relationship. They're not romanticizing getting that classy woman in the office. No, they don't romanticize, they sexualize. You know why? Because of the media that they watch. Porn is a form of media. So you're watching, the only difference between porn and a movie is that porn is more short form content, so it's like 15 minutes or whatever, versus movies, which are about 2 hours and it has a whole storyline. So if somebody spends hours per week learning about something and watching something, think about how many hours per week you spend in school as a full-time student. So you're doing what? 16 credits, 18 credits. So that means you're spending on average about 18 hours per week in a classroom setting, learning something, taking in information. Well, if you spend an average of 18 hours a week watching TV and watching Netflix and all that, and then, out of the 18 hours worth of shows and movies you watch per week, those are all focused on a girl and a guy, the relationship stuff or like these teen love movies and stuff, then you are essentially going to the college of being a pick-me. Like I'm telling you, this is how I see it. It's like being a full-time student in how to become a pick-me, how to get the guy. And then also the messages that they send in those movies and stuff too, if you think about it, usually the girl who gets the guy, she is conventionally attractive, she is thin, she has long full hair, she's wearing makeup, she has straight white teeth on average. So then you also begin to internalize the male gaze a lot more, or at least that's what I noticed with myself. I noticed that for me personally, once I completely stopped watching movies, I know I must be really weird. I even took a poll about this on my community page because I was like, am I weird that I don't watch TV? I don't watch movies. I don't watch Netflix or anything like that. I don't really keep up with all of the new movies that are coming out and stuff like that. I am more of a social media person, so I like to watch YouTube videos and live streams and stuff. But even the live streams and all that, it tends to match my viewpoint or it tends to kind of reinforce my viewpoint. So remember, whatever you watch is brainwashing you. It is influencing you, whether it's on a conscious level or a subconscious level. It's influencing your perception of yourself. It's going to gradually begin to shape your beliefs. And so somebody commented and said how she will watch romance movies and stuff and, kind of compare it to real life. And then it's like, yeah, you're going to be even more disappointed with real life because you don't realize that on a subconscious level, you do actually believe what's in the romance movies. The way that movies work is they are meant to evoke emotions. And also, when you watch any form of media, the whole purpose of you watching that media is because you, in your mind, are kind of pretending that you are that person, or you are kind of like seeing it through their shoes or seeing the world through their eyes. And so you're kind of like living vicariously through them in a light way. It's like a light version of living vicariously through someone else. You're seeing the world through their perspective when you watch movies and stuff. And this is a part of why I don't like being with a guy who watches porn, because the whole thing that turns a guy on when it comes to porn is he is imagining himself ramming that girl, or he's imagining himself, having an orgy or whatever. And so my thing is, if he feels the need to do that, then why does he? That means that he's using that to satisfy his sexual needs while simultaneously using me to satisfy his emotional and domestic needs. And so I don't want to do that. But in my opinion, when it comes to romance movies or the things that I watch, it has been no different. It's the same thing, or at least with me when I would watch those movies, I would imagine myself as Olivia Pope. So I would kind of like have fun kind of living vicariously through the characters on the screen. Like, oh yeah, like that's exactly how I would dress, or like, oh yeah, she looks so cute, and oh, look at this rich white man who's in a powerful position, and look at how he looked at her from the side and how he's like, kissing on her and stuff. Remember that anything you take in, it is implanting thoughts in your head. And I'm not saying it in a scary way, but it's like, yeah, you have to think about the movie or whatever while you're watching it, or you have to like be open to kind of just taking it in. You're kind of sitting there just like a vegetable, and then whatever's on the screen is just being fed into your mind. And so this is why people will say things like, hey, I've started watching red pill content and I noticed my self-esteem went down. Or, hey, the more I scroll on social media and look at all of these influencers with certain body types, the more my self-esteem goes down. I'm not saying that you can't enjoy movies or that you can't enjoy social media, but it does make it harder at least for me, it made it harder for me on my decentering men journey, like constantly feeding my mind and kind of feeding the fantasy of, oh, I'm just going to be walking in a bookstore and then I'm just going to bump into the love of my life, or, I'm just going to get a good professional job and suddenly I'm going to catch the president's eye. So, in my opinion, I consider entertainment to be a form of escapism. So, escapism is not always a bad thing. I think escapism is fine if it's done in moderation, or, as long as you can separate fiction from reality. But in my opinion, the more you dive into escapism, and when I say escapism, I mean like you're diving into something that is completely fantasy. So, like a video game, or like porn, or like movies and TV shows and stuff. The more hours you spend watching that, first of all, in my opinion, the less hours I spent leveling up. Like for me personally, the more hours I spent watching Grey's Anatomy, like literally I would watch a whole season of Grey's Anatomy within like a whole one weekend, or within like one day sometimes. So the more hours I spent watching these fantasies or escaping, the less hours I was able to spend on leveling myself up. And so then I had to come to terms with the fact that I was using these romantic fantasies as an escape from the fact that I did not have that quote unquote romance in my real life. So, in my opinion, whatever it is you want to watch, or whatever it is you want to escape to, or whatever you view as fun, in my opinion, you want to do that in real life. There's a part of you that wants that in real life. This is why, again, with the whole porn thing, with a guy, like for me, I don't want to be with a guy who just spends all his time watching porn or still feels the need to jack off to other women while he's with me. Because in my opinion, if you're jacking off to women or men or children, then there is a part of you that wants to be with those groups. And so it's like, well, then why am I here? But when it comes to the romantic movies and stuff, for me, part of the reason why I was even drawn to that in the first place is because I was drawn to the idea of romantic love. Notice how you only choose movies and media that are based on your interest. So I don't watch horror movies because I'm not interested in feeling scared and terrified. I'm not interested in watching demons and stuff and learning about that and seeing what it's like and keeping up with what's going on. You pick media based on your interest. Your algorithm on social media is based on your interests. So if you are looking at a particular body type, or if you're looking at particular movies, or you're looking at porn or whatever, that's because you are interested in that thing. There's something about that you're interested in. There's something about that you want. So for example, I can actually use the social media example as well. I used to look at influencers and be like, oh wow, their bodies are so perfect. Oh, her hair is so perfect. Wow, she can do any hairstyle. And then I finally realized, wait a minute. The reason why I spend my time looking at these influencers is because deep down inside, I want to be able to have my body look like that. I want to be able to have my hair look like that. And I want to look cute and like wear the makeup and wear the cute clothes and stuff. So it's attached to my desire. And the same thing went for movies with me. The reason I was watching the movies and the shows and stuff about love and romance is because deep down inside, I had a desire for that. So it's clear that based on whatever media you choose to take in, like spending hours taking in certain forms of media, that means that you have an interest in that. So if you have an interest in romance, that's not a bad thing because there's no wrong answer. I don't shame women if they want to live different lifestyles or if they have an interest in certain things. So if you have an interest in romance and if you like that flirty energy or you like kind of the energy that those romantic movies bring. By the way, I like that myself. I like flirting. I like the energy of like, he's looking at me and I'm looking at him and like he's hot and then I look hot. So I understand where you're coming from. There's nothing to be ashamed of because, that's totally normal in my opinion. But I noticed that for me, it was always more fulfilling to meet my needs in real life as opposed to meeting my needs via a fantasy or via escapism. And I'm not shaming anybody here. This isn't going towards the person that commented, but this is just about myself. So the way that I chose to meet my romance needs or kind of like my flirting needs was I would just allow myself to be taken on dates by guys with money who were also attractive, by the way. So you know how people are like, oh, a guy has to meet all of these standards for me to marry him? The way that I met my need for romance or the way that I met my need for being pursued is I simply dated for fun. I simply allowed guys who were attractive and who had money to take me out on dates, and then I got to live out my own love story, for lack of better words, because I understood, like, I was able to balance the fantasy with reality. So I know that there's a 70% chance that this is not going to work out, like statistically speaking. And even if we do get married, there's a 50% chance that that's not going to work out. So now that I have the reality, I can merge it with my desires and still get whatever needs that I can get. I can get those needs met. So if I just want to feel sexy and beautiful, because I was able to break it down. So, like, for example, with Olivia Pope from Scandal, why was I so drawn to that character? Why was I so drawn to that TV show? Well, because there were qualities about Olivia Pope that I liked and that I could see myself doing. Like Olivia Pope, she reminded me of kind of a leveled up version of myself. So at that time, I was in college. I was interested in politics more at the time. I was interested in kind of climbing the corporate ladder at the time. So I knew that deep down inside, I had a desire to social climb when it came to career. Also, Olivia Pope was surrounded by powerful men. She was surrounded by men who were attractive, they were powerful, they were wealthy. And so I was able to decipher the fact that, okay, I desire to be around powerful men that are attractive and wealthy. And so, how can I live that out in real life as opposed to just spending my time watching others do it or watching others, watching Kerry Washington get paid millions of dollars while I'm sitting here in my dorm room? How can I go out and be my own real life Olivia Pope? And so I decided, okay, this means that I have the desire to be around powerful, wealthy, attractive men, and I have a desire to feel like I am leveled up myself. So, like, having cute outfits on, because I'm thinking of Olivia Pope again. That was another thing I liked. Her outfits were cute and classy. So I was able to decipher my own desires based on the types of shows I was interested in. So that's how I knew, okay, this just means that deep down inside, on a subconscious level, I want to look cute and like receive positive validation and positive attention. So, but because I also know the reality of men's nature for the most part, because I know that not all men, yeah, I get it, but I'm not going to spend my life fighting over a unicorn or waiting for a unicorn or searching for a unicorn. I'm not going to spend my whole life searching for a needle in a haystack. So what I realized was, okay, how can I live out my fantasies, for lack of better words? How can I live those out in real life? Okay, well, I can get dressed up and I can work these cute professional jobs and stuff and wear a suit and kind of dress in that style. And I can allow men who I encounter who are powerful and attractive and stuff to take me out to lunch. And that's exactly what I did. I remember at the time I ended up getting a job at a news station and I started dressing, I dressed very professional and everything. And then one of the reporters, who was technically, from my perspective back then, he was in a higher position and he like had more money or whatever because he was working for a national news station and stuff like that. He took me out. So I still got to kind of live out that dream, for lack of better words. So in my opinion, the more somebody is going into escapism, the less fulfilled their real life is. Because I've noticed that for me personally, if my actual real life is good, I don't have a need to escape it. I don't want to escape it. I'm excited to wake up in the morning. Like, I genuinely am excited to wake up in the morning and create content. I'm excited to go on my walks in the park. I'm excited to hang out with my friends or whatever. So that was kind of how I felt about the whole romance thing or about romance movies. But it's not wrong to want to have a feeling of romance. It's not wrong to want to feel sexy and to feel beautiful and to feel powerful, because that is the exact feeling that I wanted to have as well. And I found a way to attain that for myself. So a part of the Decentering Men movement, for me, it means, how can I get my needs met without putting the man at the center? So it doesn't have to mean that, like, you have to turn gay or something, or you have to be asexual, or you're forced to be celibate for life, or like you can't even talk to men and you can't even interact with them. It doesn't have to mean that, and it's not going to mean that for everybody. So this is why people like Shira 7 exist. This is why some of those channels exist where they talk about hypergamy and stuff. And this is why I will never go against the concepts of hypergamy or dating a guy who's a protector and provider and all that, because I myself am able to get my emotional and romantic needs fulfilled, or live out my quote unquote fantasy, for lack of better words. I'm able to get those needs fulfilled by being surrounded by a guy who is, attractive and wealthy, and then he wants to take me out. So, but for me though, I know where to end it. Like I know where to stop it. I know that like once you pass the honeymoon phase on average, that it's going to begin to decline. And I also know the real statistics that about 70% of non-married couples are going to break up. So no matter who you're talking to right now, no matter who your boyfriend is right now, there is about a 70% chance that that guy will be gone from your life in the next 5 years. I've realized that romance movies for me were kind of like taking a drug. It gives me a temporary sense of excitement. It gives me a temporary sense of feeling loved, and it gives me a temporary sense of feeling pursued because I'm living vicariously through the character in the show. But then after the show is over, I am kind of sad. As a matter of fact, this actually happened to me when Scandal, like when the season would end, I would genuinely be like kind of sad because I'd be like, oh wow, what am I going to do on Friday night now? Oh wow, Grey's Anatomy, I'm done watching this season and now I have to wait till the next season comes out. What am I going to do on Saturdays? So for me, I was able to realize that those shows and movies and stuff were a form of escapism because at that time in my life, I was a Christian. I was staying a virgin until marriage. I was not smoking, not drinking, not going out because it went against my beliefs. And so deep down inside, I wanted to go out and have fun. I wanted to like interact with guys in real life. But at that time, my religious socialization was holding me back from doing that. So I kind of feel like if a person is watching a lot of romance movies and stuff, you probably have a desire for romance in your heart. And so, in my opinion, you get to decide, how do I want to get my romantic needs met? How do I want to get my emotional needs met? And there is no wrong answer. I do not shame women for whatever it is they choose to do. For some women, their answer is, I will allow guys on dating apps to take me out on dates. For other women, it's, I will allow rich and attractive guys on dating apps to take me out on dates. And then still, for other women, it's, I will flirt with so-and-so at work, or I will allow him to flirt with me because he meets my kind of emotional fantasy of being the wealthy, attractive guy or whatever. And also for me, I decided where to end it. So you get to decide where you want to get that need met, and then you get to decide when your needs have been met and now you're done. So this is where you get the women who are like, oh, I will sleep with so-and-so NBA players. And then, if I don't really want him after that, then I'll be done. Or I will sleep with whatever guy, but I'm not going to be his therapist. And, once I'm done getting my need met, then I am done with him. So I've noticed that for every woman, it's different. I don't shame women for whatever they decide to do. If you come into the comment section and you try to shame women for whether it's sleeping with men or dating men, or you try to shame women who have a different lifestyle than you will immediately be blocked. But for the people out there who do feel like you are addicted to things like romance movies and also I've noticed that the word addiction is kind of a strong word. Like when people think of addiction, they think of like, oh my God, I'm fiending without it. Like I'm going through withdrawal. But no, seriously, when it comes to romance movies and romance novels and like erotica and stuff like that, if you could no longer, if that didn't exist, how much of your time would be spent just sitting around? Like how much time do you spend on those things per day? How many hours do you spend on those things per week? Because in my opinion, if it's something that you feel like you're going to be kind of sad without it, or if you will feel like a void or like kind of a sense of emptiness without it, if you cannot say right now, hey, I'm never watching a romance movie the rest of my life. If you can't say that, if you feel like, oh no, I cannot give this up, I have to watch romance movies, then I would say, yeah, that is an integral part of your identity. You are a romantic person. And so you will deal with the pros and cons of that, because there's pros and cons to every type of person. There's pros and cons to every lifestyle. So romanticism certainly has lots of pros and cons, but you get to decide, okay, how do I want to live out my romanticism? How do I want to be romanced? Does it actually exist? The type of romance that I want, does it exist? For me, it does not. And this is what made me choose to no longer have a desire for things like kids and marriage, because I realized that the romanticism that I was wanting was something that was literally just based on movies in Disney. It was literally based on my Christian upbringing. So once I realized, wait a minute, there's no such thing as a perfect, upstanding Christian man. There's no such thing. Because even in Christianity, they teach that you're going to sin. So it's like, okay, if no matter what, he's going to sin against me, And if no matter what, we're not going to have the same romance feeling 20 years from now than we do today, or if the only pathway to receiving those romantic feelings is I have to go 50-50, or I have to be hypogamous, or I have to be with a guy that's ugly and stuff like that, for me personally, that takes away the desire. Like that takes away the fun part for me because that's not actually meeting my personal fantasy that I had. So it helped me to realize that it actually was a fantasy and that it did not exist, or that it did exist but not long term. So I believe that romance exists. Of course, you can have romantic feelings, you can have like a romantic fling or whatever. Romance exists, it just doesn't last forever. And so you get to decide, okay, am I willing to go through being on a dating app or socializing with guys or dressing up or whatever so that I can have the romantic fling, or so that I can have the honeymoon relationship, or so I can be with this guy for an average of about 2 to 4 years at most? Am I willing to go through that knowing that I'm going to have an inevitable breakup, or knowing that inevitably we will both have to move on from each other? For some people, the answer is yes. They're still willing to do that. Like they're still down for that. And then for other women, the answer is no, I will just not deal with men whatsoever. And then for some women, they're going to say, I will deal with guys up until a certain point. So, like for me, I loved casual dating. I loved casual dating because you're not committed to anyone. You are not out here living with a guy. You're not marrying a guy. You're not paying 50-50 with the guy. You are just casually being courted by multiple guys. So you literally have a guy taking you out every weekend. You have a guy who is attractive. Let's say you meet him on a dating app or something. You have guys who are attractive and wealthy, depending on the dating app you go on. If you want to know the apps and the type of dating style I recommend, you have to join the Patreon because I'm not sharing that information publicly because there are too many random people who come on this channel just to spy on us. But anyway, watching the romance movies and the romance content, it was a form of emotional excitement for me. And so I have found other ways to get that emotional excitement. I have learned how to receive emotional excitement in real life, romantic emotional excitement. I have learned how to receive that in real life. So I no longer feel the need to, I guess, watch all these movies and shows and stuff. And also, the romantic excitement that I have got in real life has been more fulfilling, for lack of better words. So if I just want to feel sexy and if I just want to feel pursued for 2 hours, like I said, then I would just allow whatever guy was hitting on me at work, who was like, he has to meet my standards for taking me on a date though. My standards for a guy to just take me on a simple dinner is he needs to be wealthy, attractive, and we have to vibe well in terms of personality. So I do have a type or whatever. So the guy would have to meet my type and then he just takes me on a date. That is how I receive 2 hours of emotional excitement. I get ready for the date, I play like sexy music or whatever. I play music that makes me feel beautiful. I play music that makes me feel sexy and alive. And then I put my cute dress on and my red lipstick. And then I go out and I enjoy the dinner. Thankfully, it's never gone bad to where I had to like pay for myself or like, because I've heard some horror stories. But that's because I stick to my standards and stuff. And like, for example, if a guy wanted to take me out on a date, I am not going to spend hours talking to that guy on the phone prior to the date. The guy needs to, like, there are just certain types of guys that I just don't even date whatsoever. So I personally haven't had a problem with like 50-50 or ratchetness, because I have a very specific type that I date. Like I need to know what type of job the guy has and stuff. But anyway, if you guys want to hear more details about that, definitely join the Patreon. And if you go in the Patreon, you can comment on any of my uploads and just say, hey, can you talk about how your dating process was and stuff like that, or what you have done to date from a decentered way. So you guys will have to remind me in the Patreon. Otherwise, I'm going to forget. But yeah, so I noticed that for me, the romance movies and books and erotica and all that, it was more like having an emotional high or like wanting emotional excitement. And then I also had to analyze within myself, why do I want the emotional excitement? So are my reasons for wanting the emotional excitement, am I satisfied with those reasons? Do I feel like I'm being authentic? So for me, the reason that I have wanted emotional excitement from a guy, like romantic emotional excitement, is because, I'm attracted to guys. Like I want a guy that's hot. I like how it feels when a guy is hot and he's wealthy and professional and he's my quote unquote type, which is more like an MLS kind of think like Barack Obama, not Barack Obama himself, but that archetype. So he's like, a very high level professional guy. He has like a good amount of money or whatever, like 100K and above. He is giving me attention or giving me special attention. So that is why it is emotionally exciting to me. And you know what? I'm not ashamed to say it. And who gonna check me? Like, yes, I love feeling like a sexy, powerful dominatrix, for lack of better words, but I also figured out how to balance it with my decentered talking points or with my decentered lifestyle. So, like I said, my way of getting my 2 hours of emotional excitement is instead of watching a movie, I just go out and that's my movie for the night. That's my real movie. A guy took me to a nice bar, or a guy who owns a medical marijuana dispensary, he took me out to a nice bar and I got dressed up and it was great, and then I had fun, and then I never saw him again after that. Because I already had my need met, and then also, because I know the nature of men, and then based on kind of the behaviors of the guys on the dates or whatever, I understand that it's not going to last. It's not going to last anyway. So I decide how and when to end it. So I know that romance is not going to last for a lifetime. So that's another thing you would have to decide within yourself is like, okay, this romance that I have right now, what do I want this to be? So like for me personally, I am not looking for kids and like, oh, I'm trying to get married and stuff. So I don't have that pressure on me. I don't have the same pressure as women who want marriage and stuff. Women who want marriage, yeah, you kind of have to take it a lot more seriously. I'm not thinking of dating as, oh my God, is he my husband? Is he this? Is he that? No, I literally went on those dates when I was casual dating, roster dating. I went on those dates specifically knowing my intentions. I knew that my intention is I want to have fun. My intention is to get my romantic emotional feelings and needs and desires, like to have so much fun with that, to feel sexy and to be shown around the town and, to be wined and dined. That was my literal intention. It was just having fun. And then I kind of had the mindset of whatever happens, like if the guy ends up being very nice or he ends up, wanting to take me on a second date and a third and a fourth and a fifth. Okay, that's wonderful. But I'm not about to center my life around him though. But if a guy wants to wine and dine me and he wants to continue doing so, and I feel like he's attractive, I like his personality or whatever, okay, great. Obviously, that's going to be the exception though, and not the rule, because like I said, statistics, 70%, there's a 70% chance that you will not be with him for the rest of your life. There's a 70% chance that you will break up if he becomes your boyfriend or something. So I still keep that in mind and it helps me to stay grounded. But yeah, that's how I meet my emotional / romantic needs, or that's how I fulfill my quote unquote fantasy. It's kind of like how some guys look at porn and then other guys, they can have sex in real life. This video isn't meant to shame anyone who likes romance and erotica, because I used to like romance books. I read like 50 Shades of Grey, and I read, I used to read those popular books and stuff too. So I guess I just kind of found a way to get that need met that benefited me. So for every woman, the answer is going to be different. There are some women who have specific sexual needs as well that they want to get met, and I've met some women who, like one of my friends, she was able to decide exactly what worked for her in terms of getting her sexual needs met. So she was talking to me about how she used to be male-centered. By the way, she's an unambiguous, monoracial, dark-skinned black woman, but she is a very leveled up, she's very leveled up. She has like her master's degree. She's in shape. Her hair is very long and natural. I've noticed that the unambiguous women I tend to be around, they are very leveled up to where I've never had any problems with them, like in real life. But anyway, this girl was talking about how she basically realized that deep down inside, what she wanted was the sex. She wanted the sexual validation of, having a hot guy desiring her sexually. And so the way that she fulfilled that need while simultaneously decentering men was she decided for herself that she was just going to only just do the sex part and only sleep with guys who were, like the buff, whatever her type was, like a wealthy buff guy or whatever, and she likes black guys only. So she said that the way that she satisfied that need was, she would get flown out, or she would have guys that she would hook up with in different cities or whatever. I personally have not done that. I do not thrive on casual sex because I feel like it's bad for my mental health. But at the same time, I do not shame women who choose to, if they're like a Brittany Renner or if they're like Lori Harvey or if they, some women only want to go on dates. Some women only want to have the sex part. Some women want both. Some women want a boyfriend. Some women want a husband. So I'm not like, I don't put one or the other on a hierarchy. And I also don't shame women who are, let's say you're a sex worker or something like that. I don't shame women because of their different lifestyles. So anybody who comes in the comments trying to do that will immediately get banned from commenting. But in my opinion, there is no wrong answer. Right and wrong is not black and white. I think that right and wrong is actually subjective, depending on who you are, what country you're from, what the laws are, what your religious socialization is. I think that that is influencing whatever your views are of right and wrong. I don't have a problem with people having different views. I just don't like when people try to project their views onto you. I think that that's actually what leads to a lot of mental illnesses and stuff. Kind of like even with the woman who commented on my channel saying, hey, how do you get over the desire to have romance, if you want to watch romantic movies? Well, my answer is you're not wrong for having a desire for romance. So my solution is actually you should fulfill your desire. Fulfill the desire for romance in a way that works for you. So the way that that has worked for me is, like I said, just get taken out on dates. But also I do feel like there is kind of some preparation or whatever, or like I think that it's easier for me to say that because I like to work out all the time and kind of like look good all the time and all that. So I feel like if a woman is not like that, maybe if a woman is leveled down, for lack of better words, or she feels like she looks bad, for some women, they do feel like it's easier to just watch the movie and live vicariously through the movie as opposed to going through all the like, I don't know, maybe losing weight or trying to fit whatever the beauty standards are. For some women, I can understand how that is overwhelming. So you have to pick, which struggle do you want? You have to pick a struggle. Do you want the struggle of having to lose the weight or having to look a certain way? Or do you want the struggle of you're just going to only be watching the movies and not actually interacting in real life? I'm not going to shame anyone for whatever you choose. But for me personally, you guys know how I like to deal with my mental health. If something triggers me, I like to remove the trigger. So for example, let's say I'm on social media and some girl with a really nice body pops up and I feel it makes me feel insecure about my body or something. I will unfollow or kind of like train my algorithm to where it doesn't show that body type anymore. That's a form of removing the trigger. But another thing that I do to remove that trigger as well on a deeper level is I will become what I was once triggered by. So for example, I used to be triggered by people that were very wealthy. So instead of me being triggered by wealthy people or like basically being jealous and being mad, like, hey, that's not fair, our society's so messed up, instead of just sitting in that emotion forever, I came to the realization like, wait, no, deep down inside, if I could trade places and become a billionaire tomorrow, then I would. So deep down inside, I'm actually just jealous. So instead of sitting here being jealous, I'm going to go on my own level up journey so that I can attain wealth, so that I can attain the nice body, so that I can attain the romance or the romantic feelings or, so as long as you are going after that thing in a way that is not harmful to your own physical or mental health, then I would say you're fine. But if you feel like going after the things you want will harm your physical and mental health, that is when your personal core values have to come into play. And then you have to ask yourself, okay, what's more important to me, my mental health or having a husband? So for me, that's how I decided, like with marriage, like, no, I'm not over here like about to pursue marriage because I'm not willing to sacrifice my mental health for anything. For a marriage, for a relationship, for validation. Nope. I will keep my mental health. I will keep my peace and I'll just never have the marriage, never have the children because I know that those two things in particular will affect my mental health negatively. And so I'm not willing to sacrifice it. So you have to ask yourself, what am I willing to sacrifice to get to what I want? What struggles am I willing to deal with? Because there are going to be struggles either way. You can either deal with relationship problems or you can deal with single girl problems. You can either deal with pretty girl problems or you can deal with ugly girl problems. You can either deal with skinny girl problems or deal with fat girl problems. So you have to pick the struggles that you are willing to take on. Some people think that there's a pathway that leads to no problems. And that's not true. No matter what path you choose in life, there will always be struggles. There will always be problems with it. Even if you're a multi-billionaire, you have rich people problems. So for me, I decided, hey, you know what? I'd rather have rich people problems than poor people problems. But you get to choose. Anyway, this episode was very rambly, but I hope you guys liked it. I have a lot more to talk about on this topic. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section, and I'll talk to you next time. Stay pretty, ladies.